I wouldn't say he was a jerk, but he can play that kind of thing. But Bruce can play a lot of different things. You know, I think he's a great actor. During that time, it was like being locked in a cage, two rats, you know, at each other's throats.
Oftentimes, actors cast as soulmates, lovers, and destined partners were actually navigating tension, misread personalities, and creative clashes while the cameras rolled. What makes these stories unsettling isn't just the disagreement, but the fact that the performances still worked, sometimes even better because of it. From teenage sets, where emotions ran raw and unfiltered, to high-pressure productions where every take mattered, and tempers quietly flared between rehearsals and resets, the line between acting and reality began to blur in ways audiences never saw. Now, years later, we're revealing these actors who played perfect couples on TV but hated each other in real life. Let's get started. Number 10. Martin Lawrence and Tisha Campbell from Martin. When Martin premiered on Fox in August 1992, it quickly became one of the defining sitcoms of the decade. At the center of its success were Martin Lawrence as outspoken Detroit radio host Martin Payne and Tisha Campbell as his sharp, independent girlfriend, Gina Waters. Their playful arguments, undeniable chemistry, and eventual marriage became the emotional backbone of the series, helping Martin rank among the highest-rated comedies on television throughout the mid-1990s and turning the phrase, "Damn, Gina," into a pop culture catchphrase. For nearly 5 seasons, audiences watched Martin and Gina's relationship evolve from dating to engagement and finally marriage. Few viewers suspected that as the series entered its final years, the relationship behind the cameras had deteriorated far more dramatically than anything written into the scripts. The turning point came in January 1997. Campbell filed a lawsuit in Los Angeles County against Lawrence, alleging harassment, battery, verbal abuse, and threatening behavior during production. The lawsuit sent shockwaves through Hollywood because it involved one of television's biggest stars and one of Fox's flagship sitcoms. Lawrence denied the allegations, and the case was resolved through an out-of-court settlement before reaching trial, meaning no court ever ruled on the claims. Although Campbell agreed to return and help finish the 5th and final season, the production was never the same. Reports from the time stated that the two actors filmed separately whenever possible, with body doubles and careful camera work used to minimize their time together. Viewers noticed that Martin and Gina, once inseparable, shared remarkably few scenes during the closing episodes, a striking contrast to the earlier seasons that had revolved around their relationship. The series concluded in May 1997 after 5 seasons and 132 episodes, with the legal dispute widely viewed as a major factor in its abrupt ending. Over the years, Lawrence has continued to deny Campbell's allegations, calling the controversy false during later interviews, while Campbell has largely moved on from the dispute. Moving on. Number 9. Nathan Fillion and Stana Katic from Castle. When Castle premiered on ABC in March 2009, it quickly became one of the network's biggest hits. The series paired best-selling mystery novelist Richard Castle, played by Nathan Fillion, with tough New York homicide detective Kate Beckett, portrayed by Stana Katic. What began as a reluctant professional partnership gradually transformed into television's classic will they won't they romance. Over 8 seasons and 173 episodes, viewers watched Castle and Beckett solve murders across New York City, fall in love, marry, and become one of network television's signature couples. The chemistry between the characters became the show's biggest selling point. Week after week, fans tuned in, not only for the murder investigations, but also for the evolving relationship between Castle and Beckett. On screen, the partnership appeared effortless. Behind the cameras, however, entertainment reporters increasingly painted a very different picture. Beginning around the middle of the series, multiple entertainment outlets, including trade publications and celebrity news magazines, published reports describing a strained relationship between Fillion and Katic. Anonymous sources claimed the two rarely interacted when cameras were not rolling, and that communication between them had become largely professional. Several reports also alleged that producers attempted to improve the working relationship, with some stories claiming both actors were encouraged to address the growing tension. Neither actor publicly confirmed many of the more specific allegations. The biggest surprise arrived in April 2016. ABC announced that Caddick would not return for a planned 9th season, despite Beckett being the female lead since the show's debut. The decision stunned fans, who struggled to imagine Castle without its central partnership. Just weeks later, the network reversed course altogether, canceling the series after season 8, instead of moving forward without Caddick. Number 8. Sybil Shepherd and Bruce Willis from Moonlighting. When Moonlighting debuted on ABC in March 1985, it broke the mold for television dramas. The series paired former fashion model Maddie Hayes, played by Sybil Shepherd, with wisecracking private detective David Addison, portrayed by Bruce Willis. Set around the fictional Blue Moon Detective Agency in Los Angeles, the show blended comedy, romance, mystery, and rapid-fire dialogue in a way rarely seen on network television. Its biggest attraction quickly became the simmering romantic tension between Maddie and David. The chemistry looked effortless, but producing it was anything but easy. As the series grew into a ratings success and Willis's popularity exploded, creative disagreements became more frequent. Years after the series ended, both Shepherd and Willis acknowledged that their working relationship had deteriorated during the show's run. In a 2005 interview, Shepherd admitted that at one point, "We just hated each other." Willis has also spoken respectfully about Shepherd, while recognizing that the production environment could become challenging. Former cast members, including Curtis Armstrong, have described arguments, creative clashes, and periods when the two stars kept their interactions to what was necessary for filming. There have also been long-standing reports that stand-ins were occasionally used more extensively as tensions increased. The series ran for 5 seasons from 1985 to 1989 and earned multiple Emmy Awards and Golden Globe Awards, while also launching Willis into movie stardom shortly before Die Hard. Moving on. Number 7. William Frawley and Vivian Vance from I Love Lucy. When I Love Lucy premiered on CBS on October 15, 1951, it forever changed television comedy. While Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz led the series as Lucy and Ricky Ricardo, another married couple quickly became indispensable to its success. Landlords Fred and Ethel Mertz, played by William Frawley and Vivian Vance, provided a perfect comic counterbalance. Fred's penny-pinching stubbornness and Ethel's sharp wit produced countless memorable scenes across the show's 6-season run. Ironically, the warmth audiences saw on screen stood in stark contrast to what was happening behind the cameras. Before production even settled into its rhythm, tension developed between Frawley and Vance. Frawley was born in 1887, while Vance was born in 1909, creating a 22-year age difference that became a source of friction. Vance complained that she was too young to convincingly play Frawley's wife. These comments eventually reached Frawley. He took those remarks personally. The relationship between the two actors never fully recovered. As the years passed, the verbal jabs became routine. Frawley allegedly mocked Vance in private and occasionally in front of colleagues, while Vance made little effort to hide her frustration with her co-star. Despite the hostility, the two remained consummate professionals whenever the cameras rolled. Their comic timing never faltered, and audiences had little reason to suspect that one of television's happiest marriages was being portrayed by actors who reportedly avoided each other whenever filming stopped. The feud even extended beyond the series finale. When Desi Arnaz explored the possibility of a Fred and Ethel spin-off after I Love Lucy ended, Vance reportedly declined because she did not want to continue working with Frawley. Hollywood has long circulated stories that Vance celebrated after learning of Frawley's death in 1966, but historians generally regard those tales as unverified show business folklore. Number 6. Sophia Bush and Chad Michael Murray from One Tree Hill. When One Tree Hill premiered on the WB in September 2003, it quickly became one of the defining teen dramas of its era. Among its central storylines was the complicated romance between Lucas Scott, played by Chad Michael Murray, and Brooke Davis, portrayed by Sophia Bush. Their relationship was marked by breakups, reconciliations, and emotional twists, becoming a fan favorite during the show's early seasons. Few viewers realized that the line between fiction and reality would soon blur in spectacular fashion. Unlike most television romances, Bush and Murray's relationship extended far beyond the set. The two actors began dating shortly after the series launched and became one of Hollywood's most talked-about young couples. On April 16, 2005, they married in Santa Monica while both were still starring on the hit series. Their marriage, however, lasted only about 5 months. Bush filed for an annulment later that year, although it was denied, and the marriage ultimately ended in divorce in December 2006. Rumors surrounding the split circulated widely in entertainment media, including reports of Murray's alleged affair with Paris Hilton during the filming of House of Wax, but neither former spouse has publicly confirmed that allegation as the reason for the breakup. The personal separation did not end their professional partnership. Instead, both actors returned to work on One Tree Hill, where they continued sharing scenes while portraying former lovers. For several more seasons, Lucas and Brooke remained intertwined in the show's storylines, requiring Bush and Murray to perform emotional and romantic moments despite the end of their real-life marriage. Years later, both actors have reflected on that chapter of their lives with caution rather than sensationalism. Bush has said she was very young when she married and has generally avoided discussing the relationship in detail, explaining that public fascination often overshadows her broader career. Murray has likewise spoken sparingly about the marriage, describing much of that period as something he has moved beyond. Moving on. Number 5. David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson from The X-Files. When The X-Files premiered on Fox on September 10, 1993, it introduced audiences to two FBI agents who would become one of television's most iconic duos. David Duchovny starred as the believer Fox Mulder, while Gillian Anderson played the skeptical physician-turned-agent Dana Scully. Investigating paranormal cases across the United States from FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C., the pair's contrasting personalities fueled a phenomenon that lasted for decades. Although romance was initially understated, Mulder and Scully's emotional bond gradually became one of television's defining slow-burn relationships, inspiring the term shipping among many fans who eagerly hoped the characters would become a couple. The show's success was extraordinary, running for 9 original seasons between 1993 and 2002, followed by a feature film in 1998, a second film in 2008, and revival seasons in 2016 and 2018. The X-Files amassed 218 television episodes and became one of Fox's biggest franchises. The chemistry between Duchovny and Anderson was widely praised. It earned them multiple Golden Globe Awards and Emmy Awards nominations during the show's peak. To millions of viewers, Mulder and Scully appeared inseparable, making what happened behind the scenes all the more surprising. Years after the series became a cultural landmark, both actors acknowledged that their working relationship had not always been smooth. Anderson has spoken openly about periods during the demanding production schedule when she and Duchovny barely spoke, except while filming. Duchovny similarly admitted that years of spending nearly every day together under intense pressure naturally created friction. Producing more than 20 episodes per season, often with long shooting days in Vancouver during the early years, placed enormous demands on the cast and crew. Neither actor described dramatic personal hostility, but both agreed there were extended periods of professional distance. Ironically, time appeared to accomplish what production never could. As the years passed and they reunited for films, anniversaries, conventions, and the 2016 to 2018 revival, Duchovny and Anderson repeatedly emphasized that they had become genuine friends. Anderson has joked that they now laugh about the tension that once existed. Number 4. Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey from Dirty Dancing. In the summer of 1986, deep in the Catskills-inspired isolation of Virginia's Mountain Lake Lodge, production on Dirty Dancing began under tight budget constraints of roughly $6 million and a schedule that barely stretched past 2 months. On screen, it would become a 1987 cultural earthquake. Patrick Swayze starred as Johnny Castle opposite Jennifer Grey as Frances Baby Houseman. Their chemistry was immediate on camera, especially in sequences like the lift rehearsal and the final "I've had the time of my life" dance, but off-camera, the rhythm was far less synchronized. Tension began early in production, rooted in starkly different working styles. Swayze, already a trained dancer with Broadway experience in Grease and West Side Story, approached scenes with discipline and precision, pushing through physically demanding choreography despite recurring knee injuries. Grey, meanwhile, was still refining her confidence in dance-heavy staging, and multiple accounts from crew members describe repeated friction during rehearsal days, particularly in emotionally charged scenes that required multiple takes under pressure. Director Emile Ardolino often had to recalibrate blocking to manage the strain between the two leads. The most cited flashpoint was a series of scenes requiring emotional escalation and improvisation, where Swayze reportedly grew frustrated with repeated retakes. In his 2009 memoir, The Time of My Life, Swayze later reflected on moments of impatience on set, acknowledging that the intensity of production sometimes spilled into blunt exchanges. Grey, in her 2022 memoir, Out of the Corner, also described creative tension. Yet what makes the production paradoxical is its outcome. Despite intermittent friction, the pair completed filming in 44 days, and the film grossed over $214 million worldwide on release. Moving on. Number 3. Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams from The Notebook. In 2004, on a humid North Carolina set built to recreate 1940s coastal Southern America, production began on The Notebook, a modestly budgeted romance that would later earn more than $115 million worldwide and redefine modern melodrama. At its center were Ryan Gosling as Noah Calhoun and Rachel McAdams as Allie Hamilton, two characters locked in a sweeping, class-stratified love story adapted from Nicholas Sparks's novel. On screen, their chemistry was immediate, volatile, and intimate. Off-camera, however, the dynamic was sharply different. Director Nick Cassavetes later revealed that early production was marked by tension so intense that Gosling at one point asked for McAdams to be replaced during filming. The conflict reportedly surfaced during rehearsal blocks and emotionally heavy scenes, where differing acting approaches collided, Gosling leaning toward immersive method-style intensity, McAdams favoring structured emotional timing and precision. Cassavetes has described having to step in during heated exchanges to prevent production delays. A rare situation on a mid-budget romantic drama, already working under tight scheduling constraints. Crew accounts and later interviews suggest that the tension was not isolated to one incident, but persisted intermittently throughout the shoot. Then came the reversal that transformed the story beyond cinema. After filming wrapped, the dynamic shifted dramatically, and Gosling and McAdams began a real-life relationship that lasted from roughly 2005 to 2007. What had begun as professional incompatibility inside a $29 million production environment evolved into one of Hollywood's most widely discussed off-screen romances. The paradox became part of the film's mythology, a love story famously built on friction, where conflict on set didn't undermine the romance. It quietly fueled it. Number 2. Nina Dobrev and Paul Wesley from The Vampire Diaries. When The Vampire Diaries premiered in 2009 on the CW, it introduced a tightly wound supernatural triangle anchored by Elena Gilbert and Stefan Salvatore, played by Nina Dobrev and Paul Wesley. On screen, their dynamic was built as the emotional spine of early seasons, a restrained, almost tragic romance set against the chaos of Mystic Falls. Between 2009 and 2017, their characters remained central figures in a series that ran for 8 seasons, spanning 171 episodes, and evolving into one of the network's defining hits. Behind the polished chemistry, however, the early production years were far less seamless. Both Dobrev and Wesley later admitted in interviews that they did not get along during the first months of filming. Dobrev has described Wesley as distant and serious, while Wesley has acknowledged that he initially misread her personality and energy on set. The friction was not hidden behind polite industry language. The tension surfaced during early blocking sessions and emotionally intense scenes, where repeated takes and long shooting nights in Atlanta stretched the cast's patience. Wesley has said in retrospect that the environment amplified misunderstandings. Dobrev, for her part, has noted that the early discomfort gradually softened as they spent more time together across seasons. What makes the story unusual is not just the conflict, but its resolution in plain sight. By mid-run, the relationship between the two had shifted into genuine friendship, strengthened through years of shared scenes, cast turnover, and evolving storylines that eventually reduced their on-screen pairing after Dobrev's partial exit in later seasons. The same actors who once struggled to connect in 2009 ultimately built a working trust that sustained one of television's longest-running supernatural romances. And you're not gonna see this next one coming. Number 1. James Franco and Busy Phillips from Freaks and Geeks. When Freaks and Geeks went into production in 1999 under executive producer Judd Apatow, it was designed as a single-season coming-of-age experiment that would ultimately run only 18 episodes before NBC canceled it in 2000. Within that short window, 2 characters, Daniel Desario and Kim Kelly, became one of the show's most volatile, emotional threads, played by James Franco and Busy Phillips. On screen, their relationship was intentionally unstable. Teenage attraction layered over insecurity, aggression, and sudden tenderness, reflecting the series' grounded portrayal of suburban adolescence in early 1980s Michigan. Off-screen, years later, Phillips described a parallel tension that escalated beyond typical set friction. In her memoir, This Will Only Hurt a Little, she recounts that during filming in Los Angeles area production stages, a disagreement in rehearsal turned physical when Franco allegedly shoved her to the ground during a moment between takes. According to her account, the incident stunned the crew and halted production briefly before being addressed internally. She has consistently framed the event as one of the most jarring experiences of her early career. Phillips also states that Franco later apologized to her, and over time, the working relationship stabilized enough for the cast to complete filming without further publicly reported incidents of that severity. Franco has not extensively addressed the specific allegation in public interviews. That asymmetry has kept the story circulating primarily through memoir excerpts and retrospective coverage of the series. What makes the moment persist in television history is its contrast with the show's legacy. A critically acclaimed but short-lived series that later became a cult classic, Freaks and Geeks, is often remembered for launching major careers and capturing adolescent chaos with unusual realism. Yet within that legacy sits a rarer footnote, and a rather troubling one at that. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Did you like this video? If you did, please consider liking, dropping a comment, and hitting the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on our new uploads. Also, don't miss this video you see on your screen right now. It's truly unbelievable.